What was that? Hello, my Nakamatachi, this is JoyGirl with a review of chapter 1007 of One Piece, Mr. Raccoon Dog. Starting with the cover page where we do return to fan requests, and this one of Caesar Clown is aptly fitting. With a chapter named after Chopper, this reminder of Punk Hazard and the Straw Hat Doctor's fury at Caesar's experiment of gigantification nicely ties into what we saw in this chapter. Plenty of other callbacks too in this cover page through the use of penguin hats. We have the ever-classic straw hat, as well as Cavendish's cowboy hat, headphones like Apu's, and maybe a penguin wearing penguin's cap? But that's enough on the cover page, let's get into the actual chapter. Beginning the review with what made up the bulk of this chapter, which is where we left off last week. In the last chapter's review, I questioned whether Oda would kill off Hyogoro and use his death as a catalyst for the story, or keep him alive and use that to give Chopper some highlights, and the mangaka went with the latter. And Chopper highlights are certainly what we got. On top of creating the cure in time, by making a good virus to counteract the bad virus, we also got some Chopper action. I'll elaborate on Chopper's scene in a bit, but let's talk about Hyogoro first. His character is really being low-key hyped up. I know that's an oxymoron, but I say low-key because no one might notice it considering the other things that happened in this chapter. On top of beating the Mimawari Gumi, which we saw in the last chapter, we were also told here that he also took down most of the Oniwa Banshu. I gotta say though that I feel a slight disappointment with how the Oniwa Banshu were handled. Not because I think that they're important characters or that I expected them to do something cool, but because I thought that they could be used to showcase the skills of some other characters in the Alliance. Say, like some of the Scabbards. But now that they're out of commission and the Scabbards will still need battles of their own, I have this worry that the Tobiroppo might be used for this purpose, and I don't know how to feel about that. To be completely honest, I would prefer it, and I'm way too excited for the possibility of the Straw Hats handling the Tobiroppo business. Nothing against the Scabbards because I think they're cool and I would want to see more of them, but I really wish it won't happen at the expense of my favorite crew. Speaking of crews, the developments that are brewing in the Beast Pirates are finally underway. I mentioned before in other videos that I envisioned part of Kaido's downfall to be caused by the hands of his own crew. And we see in this chapter that the pleasures and the waiters are finally switching sides after Queen's harsh words in this chapter. Moments like this, as Queen berating the Beast Pirates for their uselessness and telling them that they're better off dead so long as that they can do some damage, really illustrates the contrast between the Beast Pirates and the Straw Hats. This was beautifully encapsulated by one small line. Chopper saying that he was able to gain the expertise to develop his antidote during the 2 years the Straw Hats were separated. When Luffy's crewmates found out what happened to Ace, they were each determined to get stronger for their captain's sake. And we've seen since then, and even recently in the Wano arc, that they're willing to die for Luffy. In a similar way, Hyogoro was willing to die for the cause last chapter. But the Beast Pirates have the opposite mindset, where their lack of faith and camaraderie will be their downfall. Okay, so Chopper. I really enjoyed his segments in this chapter. All of them, really. Everything from cuteness to coolness was showcased by the impressive Straw Hat Doctor. Blocking a samurai slash whilst in base form? Cool. This panel right here? That is awesomely cute. Giving order to his assistants? And how cool did that smoke look? It really reminded me of Hero Look's Cherry Blossom back in Drum Island, and having everyone rally behind Chopper and cheer him on was just so adorable to witness. And then this badass doctor went on to give Queen a piece of his mind. Queen's actions go against everything Chopper stands for, and this resulted in the Calamity receiving the fury of our furry doc. And to top this off, Chopper transformed into his monster point and delivered a massive slap to Queen's smug face. I say massive, but really it's 100 belly slap. In all seriousness, I love this. This is the second time a Straw Hat slapped a Beast Pirate, and I want to see more. Whenever there's a title dedicated to a Straw Hat, I will be expecting to see a slap delivered to one of Kaido's subordinates. The reaction of everyone watching this was just perfect, and you could just not help but giggle at that scene. Prior to this, everyone was calling Chopper a raccoon dog, And now we have another Wano reaction face in the books, and it was just a perfect way to end this segment of the chapter. This perfect balance of heart, action, and comedy is one of the many reasons why I love One Piece, and I will be saying that over and over until you're all sick of it. Maybe even after then. Moving on, last week I questioned the route Yamato's group was taking, and we found out the answer to that as we see them running into the right brain tower in this chapter, which is near the entrance. Like I said last week, I am expecting them to run into Carrot and Wanda, who are last seen outside of the castle. There's an interesting little bit in this segment where Momo transformed into his dragon form. And not sure if it was just me, but his dragon form seemed bigger than usual. I'm not gonna put too much thought into that though, because Oda can be inconsistent with his sizes sometimes, but it's just my observation. The interesting part is how the scene quickly switches to CP0 discussing Vegapunk's experiments with devil fruits. So, another correct guess here. Sorry, I do sound like I'm bragging now. But I did say that Momonosuke's devil fruit was likely created using Kaido's DNA, and that Vegapunk did this whilst Kaido was held captive by the Marines. And if you haven't seen that video, feel free to check it out. There's a theory in there as well about how I think Momonosuke will help the war, and I'll link it in the description, so please, if you have time, check it out. Back to Momonosuke's transformation. It's being shown more and more obviously how his transformation is triggered by his emotions, which I think will play a role once he transforms into a capable dragon. I never actually believed that his devil fruit was a failure because I've always found it interesting that they say it's a failure, but when we saw Momonosuke eat the devil fruit, it seemed to be isolated. I mean, it was in another room and there was no other fruit around it, so if it was a failure, why not just get rid of it? It was displayed so nicely. I think there's a reason it was being kept in another room, which is a big clue about it not being a failure. I mentioned in another one of my videos that Momonosuke will stop Onigashima from falling on the flower capital, and this chapter made me more confident that this will happen now that Yamato has seen Momonosuke also has a dragon devil fruit. Maybe one of them will not be enough to counteract this ability of Kaido's, but if they act together, then there might be a chance. If Momo's dragon form is triggered by his emotions, and from what we have seen so far, triggered by fear, perhaps he will be able to harness his ability by transforming in fear of Onigashima dropping onto the flower capital. The fear of failing to protect his country and his citizens seems very fitting for this type of scenario. And moving on, now it's time to discuss the cliffhanger. Oh my god. What? I didn't just know what to think after seeing this. It took me a while to start making sense of this because I was just so shocked. Oden is standing there on the last page, and the first thing I did after recovering from this shock was to really observe what is right in front of me. But before we discuss Oden, let's talk about the silhouette from chapter 1004 first, because no, this is not Oden. The difference in size is obvious, and I've mentioned that Oda can be inconsistent with size, but not to this extent. Also, Kawamatsu's words here that he saw someone almost confirms that the silhouette was Toki. If it was anyone else that made this comment, then I wouldn't say this, but the fact that Oda chose Kawamatsu to relay this information to us, it was heavily implied that this figure is Toki. Why? Because that silhouette could only be between Toki and Hiyori, but the fact that Kawamatsu has recently seen Hiyori alive, if he saw her again here, it would not come as such a shock to the Kappa to the point that he questioned whether he was having a dream. So the answer to that then is that the silhouette is most likely definitely Toki, and then Oda gave us the biggest swerve by showing us Oden, whom we saw walked in. Another reason he couldn't have been the silhouette, in case you need more convincing, because the silhouette was shown already inside, tending to the Scabbards, so unless they left only to make a more dramatic entrance back in, then I'd say that these two are not the same person. Now, back to Oden, and I read the chapter at 5 AM, so like Kawamatsu, I've questioned if I was actually dreaming. Okay, firstly, my opinion. Is this Oden? No. I don't think it's Oden, or if it is Oden, I don't think that Oden is alive. Oden is dead. Let's first get that out of the way. Oden being alive, for one, would render his journal useless in the story. Also, it would be a disservice to such a well-written character with an amazing backstory, and in my opinion, it would be cheap to bring him back to life, and I just don't want to believe that this is something Oda would do. On the other hand, for Oden to still be dead, and then for the Scabbards to have seen him only to find out that he isn't real, just feels really mean for the Scabbards who have already gone through what they have. The only way I can resolve for this to be okay is if Toki is indeed alive, because even if it still seems mean that the Scabbards were teased by Oden's appearance, this may only be the case from the fans' perspective. For the Scabbards themselves, if they find out that Toki is still alive whilst Oden is dead, it would still be a motivating force. And one that makes more sense. Oden had a glorious death and the Scabbards have reconciled with that. So for now, let's go with the fact that Oden is dead. And then, if Oden is dead, who is this? And there are a few ideas that I do have. The list of candidates that makes sense is that this could be Kanjuro's drawing of Oden, it could be Onimaru, who we have seen shapeshift before, or we have two very wild possibilities, which will first require us to consider the chapter title. Raccoon Dog is Tanuki in Japanese, and this may have deeper implications here. Tanuki in a Japanese folklore has the ability to shapeshift into a human. And whilst Chopper isn't a raccoon dog, we have seen some other raccoon dogs in the Wano arc, such as the poor creature who the Yokozuna wanted to eat, as well as Tenguyama's teapot, Bunbuku, who ate the Inu Inu no Mi model Tanuki, comes to mind. And if it were one of these two, then the chapter title would be serving a very clever double purpose. Although, this would be truly wild. But in all seriousness, there is something very suspicious going on here. Like I said, the first thing I did was to observe what was happening here, and what I found were these bits of detail. Oden's appearance of his obviously longer kimono, and the fact that he's carrying swords which are not Enma nor Ame no Habekiri, as well as the suspect smoke surrounding his lower legs, which notably has no burn scars. Everything seems off. It's just strange. There's some sorcery going on in here, and that requires a video of its own, which I will be releasing as soon as I'm done making it, and I will start right now. Please do subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss out on that video or any more One Piece discussions as we wait for the next chapter together, and please leave a comment below on your thoughts on this truly wild chapter. Feel free to stick around to watch my reactions. This is JoyGirl, and I'll see you again soon.
Hello, my Nakamatachi. We are continuing our live exploration of the raid on Onigashima. What secrets and mysteries will we find today? What tragedies or triumphs will we see? Alright, let's get into it. Chapter 1007. And it's titled Mr. Raccoon Dog. Alright, a Chopper moment. If it's a Chopper moment, is it possible that he's found the cure to save Hyogoro before he dies? Okay, and we've got Caesar. What sort of gas are those balloons filled up with? So back on the performance floor, and everyone's recognizing how strong Hyogoro was. And we're back to that scene. Oh, please. Oh, and all the different Yakuza leaders are all just crying. Oh. Then Hyogoro's saying, I can't hold on, much longer. I'm turning into a demon as well. I can feel it. You gotta do it quickly. There's no time to waste. Just the difference. Again, it's just contrast between the two groups are just so clear. Look at the amount of disagreement in Kaido's Beast Pirates. And look at Queen's response, As a leader, as one of the commanders, there's no sort of compassion, there's no sort of leadership. It's just, it's my masterpiece. How dare you? What a thing to say. It sounds like you're telling us to die. That's exactly what I'm telling you. That is brutal. And it's just so sick how all the pleasurers, are clearly, horrified by what Queen's saying, but then all they can do is laugh. That's, it sort of parallels the tragedy that we saw at Yasui's death. And the people of Ebisu Town, doing the same thing. They're obviously in so much despair, they're grieving and they're crying at Yasui's death, but all they can do is laugh. And Oda's sort of showing us that parallel that under Kaido, even his own crew are in this depraved state. Oh, and that's so touching, isn't it? The faith of the samurais in the Straw Hats, you know, in Chopper. When Queen says he's just gonna make that antidote and then get out of here, they're like, no, that's what you would do. They have faith in the Straw Hats. Oh, wait! Oh, yes! Chopper! Oh, Chopper made it! Oh, thought this might happen. Oh, yeah, look at them celebrating. So cute, look at his eyes. And look at that cloud with just that sweet smile. Queen is now proper mad at Chopper. The raccoon dog has foiled his plans. So we might be seeing this fight after all. And look at that callback to how they each got separated, how Kuma sent them off to different islands, and you know how they all trained for 2 years. And reminding us of that, it really again shows us the big difference between the Beast Pirates and the Straw Hats. They each made a decision on their own. They were very determined that, you know what, I will get stronger for Luffy. I will get stronger so that I can be someone who can support the Pirate King. And they did that out of their own accord. It wasn't a forced torture that the pirates of the Beast Pirates had to go through, that take this artificial devil fruit that has so much risk and there's no sort of appreciation for it. Oh, and see, yes, we're getting that moment where the Beast Pirates are actually turning on the Beast Pirates, where some of the, you know, soldiers are turning on the Beast Pirates. And, you know, I think I mentioned this before. I think it's a very clear thing that was going to play out. I think that was a development that was sowed right there from the beginning, because I think I mentioned it in my How Will Kaido Be Defeated video, one of my in the Wano trilogy, one of the videos, that the way that I see it happening is the Beast Pirates will start to turn on Kaido's crew itself. Marco's appeared. Oh, what is he doing? Now pop him. Alright. Okay, and Chopper's taking his rumble ball. This is great. Yes. Oh. And look at that. Look at the reaction faces. I love that. Alright, okay, so we're back to Momonosuke and Yamato's group. We're seeing this Momonosuke is getting closer and closer to getting into having his moment. So I think this means then that Momonosuke might be doing something pretty cool for himself. And we're back with the CPO. What sort of details are we gonna find out? Yep, so Vegapunk extracted Kaido's bloodline elements. So this is what how they're gonna explain for Momonosuke's devil fruit. Thank goodness it was only a failure. Why? We're so close to seeing Momonosuke's moment. I can feel it. So they left. The mystery figures left. Oden? What? Okay, that is crazy. What? That is what? No. No. Doesn't make any sort of sense. What? This is so strange. Okay, so that is really unexpected. That is the last thing I would have imagined. I think it would have been less surprising if an elf showed up. I mean, okay, well, Oden's hair and his size doesn't match the shadowy figure that we saw. So I don't think it was Oden who healed the Scabbards. I mean, it can't be the Mane Mane no Mi, because Bon Clay has it, and what? Alright. So, alright, that's really messing with my brain. I'm gonna go try work this one out. Bye.